Welcome back. Now we're going to talk about calculating things with significant figures. So there's basically two types of operations we can do with significant figures. Once we complete the math portion of it, we then have to round that answer to the correct number of significant figures. And so we will have rules for addition and subtraction, as well as multiplication and division. The rules are different. And I'm going to talk about rounding here because I want to make sure you understand that when you're rounding, I want you just to go to the old middle school rules. If I want to round a number and the number that I'm rounding off is 5 or above, you round up. If it's 4 or lower, you round down. I don't care what the book says. That's what we're going to do. We have enough interesting things to worry about that rounding is not going to be very difficult. So, and here they go with this odd even thing. I don't care. We're going to do 4. Round off, 5, round up. So, if I wanted to round these numbers to 4 significant figures, that means I'm going to keep the 3, the 1, the 4, and the 7. I would look at this 2 to decide what I'm going to do. Since 2 is smaller than 5, I round it off, and so this would be 314.7. Here, if I want to round to 2 significant digits, I'm going to keep the 1 and the 7, and the second 7 is where I'm going to decide if I'm going to round up or round off. In this case, I would round up, and it would be 0.0018. This first 7 would go up to an 8. Here, if I'm going to round to 2 significant figures, I'm keeping the 8 and the 7. And this 9 will tell me I have to round that 7 up. And it would change from 8,792 to 8,800. You'll know where to round based on your understanding of significant figures. So, let's go on. And they're going to go through all of this is in your book. So let's talk about the rules for subtraction and addition. In this case, we are going to look at the same number of decimal places, not digits. We're going to look at the number with the least number of significant figures, or what column runs out first. It does not have to be after the decimal place, but we are looking at columns or places of numbers. So, if I have a number 12.52 meters plus 349 meters plus 8.24 meters. In this number, I have 2 decimal places. This number only has the tenths place, and this has to the hundredths. My answer will be rounded to the tenths place, or the first decimal point. Here I have 3 decimal places. Here I have 2 decimal places. I will report to the hundredths. So, if you were to do the math, for the first problem, you get 369.76. If I look here, all the numbers have values in the 1/10th place, but not in the hundredths. So I can only report to the tenths place, and I would round this number to 369.8 meters. If you wanted to put it in scientific notation, that's also possible, but I wouldn't bother unless you feel the need to. When I'm doing my subtraction, now we have numbers in the ones place, the tenths place, the hundredths place. But the thousands place, I do not have a number in my bottom number, so I have to report only to the 8. And the 6 is going to tell me to round up, so this would be 46.29. The rules for multiplication and division are much simpler, and that's why we're going to do those second. We are just going to count the number of digits in our multiplication or division, and the number with the least number of significant digits will be the number of significant figures I can report. So if I were to multiply these two numbers, this one has 3 significant figures, this one has 2 significant figures. So my answer here would only have 2 significant figures. Again, we have 3 here because that final 0 is significant. Leading zeros are not significant, final are. So I have 3 here, 2 here, I would have 2 in my answer. Doesn't matter if I'm multiplying or dividing. This one only has 2. This one has more than 2. I'm going to end up with 2 significant figures. This one has 3. This one also has 3. So my answer will have 3. So when I subtract, or when I multiply these numbers, that's what I get mathematically. And I'm going to report only 2 significant figures, so it's 2.6 because the 5 is where I'm going to round, and the 6 tells me to round up. I bet you're loving these so far. Same thing here. We have 3 here, 3 here, so I'll have 3 in my answer, rounding at the tenths place. So, in what case are zeros not significant in a measured value? We're almost done, I promise. And zeros that are not significant would be things like leading zeros and ending zeros that are there just to put the number in the correct position. So, we will do lots of examples in class. Now that you've gotten through the end, we're going to be good. So, here's our big ideas, scientific notation. You should be able to tell me about accuracy versus precision. And you should be able to do significant figures. So we have a lot in this chapter, don't we? And you should be able to do error and percent error. And percent error is the one that I focus on the most. And then you have some vocabulary that you should be getting your Quizlet set. So that's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 already, just in the first section. And the big idea scientists use or express the degree of uncertainty in their measurements using significant figures. In general, a calculated answer cannot be more precise than the least precise measurement from which it was calculated, and that's why we have the rules that we do on significant figures. The end. Hallelujah. I will see you soon.